Haunting in the rental house. This story happened in a rental house in Chonburi province not long ago. My name is Nan. I still remember clearly that it was a Wednesday. My friends and I were still working as usual and thinking about moving from the dormitory to a rental house together. We searched for rental houses on Facebook and found one that both of us really liked, but the owner forgot to leave a phone number. Luckily, the location of the house was provided. When it was break time, we decided to go look at the rental house in a village. After searching for a while, we found the house, but its condition looked much worse than what we saw on Facebook, so we didn't feel good about this house and decided to go back. We thought we would look for a new house tomorrow and go see it. After finishing work that day and taking care of everything, we went to bed. That night I dreamed of the house my friend and I went to see. I was standing in front of that house in the middle of the night. The atmosphere around was quiet and scary, and I saw what looked like spirits inside the house. From the looks of it, they were definitely not human. There were 3 spirits walking back and forth inside the house. After a while, a woman walked out from the front door, which was left open. She had a very wide mouth. Her arms were so long they almost dragged on the ground. Her appearance was terrifying, making me jump awake, covered in sweat. At first I woke up startled, but my boyfriend and my child who were sleeping next to me also woke up. When my boyfriend saw that I looked strange, he asked what was wrong. I said it was just a bad dream, nothing more. And then we lay back down to sleep. At this point I thought I was just overthinking things, and it was nothing. The next day my friend and I continued searching for a rental house on Facebook and found another one that both of us liked. This house was located in the same village as the house we went to see yesterday. When it was break time, we went to see this house, and this time it didn't disappoint us at all. From the outside, the house looked very beautiful and the rent wasn't expensive either. So we decided to call the owner to go inside and see it. We agreed and signed the rental contract. After my family and my friend Pearl's family moved in for a while, everything seemed normal. Until one night. That night I was sleeping on my left side facing my child, with my back to my boyfriend. In the middle of the night I was suddenly startled awake for no reason. I opened my eyes and looked at my child. He was asleep, but behind my child there was a young boy sitting next to the bed. He was facing away from my bed. At that moment I was very scared. I quickly jumped up to turn on the light, but the young boy was gone. My boyfriend woke up and asked me why I turned on the light, but I didn't answer. I turned off the light and went back to sleep. I started to wonder if what I saw was just my eyes deceiving me. After about 2 or 3 more days passed, one night while we were sleeping, in the middle of the night, P-Tam suddenly shouted loudly in the room, startling me and my boyfriend, who were in the next room. We came out and knocked on his door asking what happened. We saw that P-Tam was very shaky because he was usually very afraid of ghosts, but he didn't dare to tell us anything at that moment. In the morning, P-Tam told us that while he was sleeping on his side of the bed, he suddenly woke up for no reason. When he opened his eyes, he saw a woman. At first he thought it was Nan, me, asking why she was sitting there. But when he focused in the darkness, he saw a disfigured face staring at him. He was very scared, so he screamed loudly. And that same day, before going to work, we took my boyfriend to make merit. After that, everything seemed normal, but only for 4 or 5 days. That night while I was sleeping, I was suddenly startled awake because my body was being shaken hard, along with someone shouting my name. I quickly got up, turned on the light and turned to ask Tam, who was shaking more than before, why he woke me up. This time he hesitantly told me what happened that night. He said that while he was sleeping he woke up for no reason, as if someone wanted him to wake up. And he turned towards the corner of the room where his bed was, and on that bed there was a man sitting there. Tom stared at the man on the bed for a while. Suddenly the man's head came off and fell to the floor, rolling towards where Tam was sleeping. He was very scared, so he woke me up to keep him company. That night the two of us could hardly sleep. As for my child, he slept soundly, not knowing anything. After that day we had to change our work schedule. Tam and Pearl's boyfriend had to stay in this house alone. As for my child, I sent him to stay with my grandmother. Pearl told me that when we went to work she would close the door and stay in the room playing on her phone. During that time she would hear the sound of the room door opening as if someone was opening it. After a while she would hear the sound of water running in the bathroom and the sound of the door closing. At first Pearl thought the sounds were coming from the neighboring house, so she didn't pay attention. The next day after Pearl finished work in the evening she returned to the rental house, while I had to go to work because our schedules didn't match. This meant Pearl was alone in the house as before. That night she heard the sound of the door opening again, and the sound was very clear, making her listen carefully to where the sound was coming from. And it made Pearl very scared when she realized the sound was coming from my room, even though no one was in the house except Pearl. She quickly messaged me on Facebook asking for help, saying that someone was opening the room door and the bathroom door and she heard the sound of water running. I told her to calm down, lock the room tightly, and if anything happened call me immediately. That night Pearl slept with the light on until morning. When we finished work at 5 a.m., we returned to the house and saw that the light in Pearl's room was on. So I told Tam to go check inside our room. As for me, I quickly went to find Pearl. I knocked on the door and called out, asking if anything strange happened last night. Or was it a thief? But from the condition of the house below, it was almost impossible for anyone to enter because the house had a small gate, and every door and window was locked tightly, so I could only wonder. This morning we went to pick up our child to bring him back to stay with Pearl because she said she was too scared to stay alone. And from that day on, no more strange sounds occurred, until we had to change our work schedule and move to the morning shift again. That night while Tam and I were putting our child to bed, we told our child to sit and watch TV, then come to bed, but he wouldn't go to bed and said he wanted to watch TV first. Being sleepy, Tam and I went to bed first, but before we could fall asleep we heard a sound like something being scraped. The sound was like someone using a spoon to scrape a glass. Because when I got up to look, I saw my child walking towards the source of the sound. I quickly asked my child where he was going. My child replied that he heard a scraping sound from outside coming from the kitchen and he was going to see. So I quickly called my child back and checked the room door to make sure it was locked tightly. After that, I turned off the TV, brought my child to bed and covered myself with a blanket, trying to force myself to sleep. The next morning we told everyone in the house about this. Everyone felt the same way, that something strange was happening in the house. So we decided to move out of this rental house. Not long after we found a new house and moved all our belongings out, we heard from the owner of the new rental house that the village and the area where we used to live were originally an old cemetery a long time ago. This made us realize what those strange things happening in the house were. A truck driving through the dark. The following story is from the mouth of Oat, a young man just 18 years old who had to work as a truck driver to earn money until he encountered a family of 3. He grew up in poverty with his parents and a 7-year-old younger brother. His education stopped at Pratham 6. After that, Oat started taking on various odd jobs to earn extra income. He had a dream of his younger brother finishing high school and becoming an office worker with a comfortable salary in the future. He began his life by working diligently and strongly. He started by gathering vegetables in the market and collecting scrap metal to sell for money. But after he grew older and was able to get a driver's license, Oat applied for a job as a truck driver to deliver goods for a factory in Bangkok. His work started off well. At first, he drove trucks delivering goods to nearby provinces and traveled during the day. But when the company got a new customer in another province, Oat, who was skilled at driving trucks and had gained the company's trust, was sent to drive trucks to deliver goods instead of the older drivers. Due to his young age and inability to choose his jobs, Oat continued to work diligently to the best of his ability, but it led Oat to an unforgettable experience. When it was time for Oat to work the night shift for the first time, he came to the warehouse at around 6 p.m. It took some time for the staff to check the goods and finish the delivery documents. So he sat and drank canned coffee in the corner of the smokers area next to the warehouse with other truck drivers. "Where are you delivering tonight?" a middle-aged driver around 40 years old asked. Oat replied, "Konkan, PA." "Oh, it will take 6 to 7 hours to get there, PA," the driver said before patting his shoulder lightly. Oat felt a little annoyed, thinking he was afraid of getting sleepy on the way, but the driver advised him to buy an energy drink at 7-Eleven and drink it, not to be stingy with money. Oat nodded in agreement but secretly argued in his heart. He didn't want to spend money on those things and thought that a can of coffee costing over 10 baht would be enough to keep him awake all night. Oat sat and talked with the drivers for a while longer until it was time for him to leave. But the driver gave him one last piece of advice before he started the engine. "Oat, remember this. When you're driving at night, if someone flags you down, don't stop. If you see anything strange, don't acknowledge it." "Yes, P," Oat replied, feeling confused by the words. Even though he didn't believe in ghosts or spirits, he didn't disregard the warning. The only thing he was truly afraid of was not having money to buy food. After saying goodbye to his co-workers, he started the engine and drove the large truck out of the warehouse into the street. It was late at night in Bangkok, and there were still quite a few cars around. The shops along the roadside were still lit up, and customers were coming and going all the time. He turned on loud music in the car and enjoyed looking at the scenery along the way. But when he drove onto the expressway, there wasn't much interesting anymore. He turned back to listening to music and singing along. The distance from Bangkok to the Pak Chong area takes about 2 hours and something almost 3 hours, because trucks cannot travel at high speed. So it took quite a while to reach the area of Korat province. On the road at that time, cars passed by occasionally, but it wasn't completely deserted because it was a main road used for traveling to the northeast. There were still gas stations and convenience stores open all the time, which made him feel somewhat relieved. He had never traveled to a different province nearby before. Oat drove the truck following the map on the old smartphone that a co-worker had donated to him. He wasn't in a hurry. The rhythm of the folk music helped relieve the lonely atmosphere of the night. He didn't feel sleepy at all, so he didn't stop at a convenience store to buy an energy drink. After several hours, he entered Con Cain province. The delivery location where Oat had to take the goods was in a rural area, about 40 kilometers from Con Cain city. As he drove further along the route, it started to become completely quiet and deserted with no streetlights at all. He noticed that the paved road was gone. He didn't know when. As Oat's truck drove on the narrow, bumpy, and uneven dirt road, he had to turn down the music to concentrate. He cursed silently under his breath and looked at the path ahead, sighing because he didn't expect the road to the customer's factory to be so rough and difficult to travel. Oat didn't know how much further he had to drive to get off this road, and at that moment his stomach started to churn. It might be because of the second cup of coffee he had drunk, which caused his large intestine to contract and feel a strong urge to go to the bathroom. Even though he was in pain, he tried to keep driving. He tried to look for houses, but he didn't see a single one. There were only fields with tall rice stalks. The agony of the pain that was almost unbearable made him think that if he didn't find a house, he would have to stop somewhere by the roadside and relieve himself. But then he saw something ahead. It was several tens of meters away, a small light glowing. As he drove closer, he saw that it was an old general store that was still open. Even though he didn't know why there was a general store open in the middle of nowhere at this time of night, the agonizing pain from his stomachache made him stop wondering. Oat quickly stopped the truck and ran towards the old general store. "Can I use the bathroom, sir?" he shouted loudly to call the owner. After a moment, he heard the sound of a wooden cane hitting the floor rhythmically. Then an old woman who looked frail and couldn't walk well came out from inside the store. Her face was wrinkled and pale, but she had a kind smile. In a hoarse voice, she asked, "Who is it?" "Grandma, can I use the bathroom, please?" At that moment, Oat was almost unable to stand. His face was twisted and pale, looking pitiful. When Grandma pointed her cane towards the back of the store, which was the way to the bathroom, he quickly ran in immediately. After Oat had finished his business, he walked out feeling relieved, without paying attention to the strange, rotten smell that was spreading throughout the old general store. He walked to the front of the store, trying to look for the owner. Just then he heard the sound of a wooden rocking chair creaking in the middle of the silence. The old woman was rocking in a dark corner behind the shelves of goods, which were almost empty. He saw a dark shadow that looked like the old woman's figure sitting on the rocking chair, but he didn't say anything. Oat smiled and walked towards Grandma to thank her. Then the rocking chair where Grandma was sitting rocked violently. After that, a chilling sound drifted in with the wind, making Oat jump and stop walking immediately. "Hey, young man." It sounded as if she wanted him to come closer to her. He thought and talked to himself in his heart before deciding to stay where he was and speak loudly to reply. "Thank you for letting me use the bathroom, Grandma," Oat said sincerely. He looked around the old-fashioned store and thought he wanted to repay Grandma. So he took out 2 crumpled 20-baht bills from his pants pocket. It was his remaining food money for the day, and Oat intended to use it to help Grandma as a thank you. "Why is Grandma still open? It's very late," Oat asked, looking at the time on his phone screen. While he was looking at his phone, the creaking sound of the rocking chair where Grandma was sitting was rocking back and forth, haunting his senses, making Oat ask Grandma to talk more to break the silence. But before he could say anything, Grandma replied first. "There are a lot of customers at this time." Grandma's answer sounded strange and surprising because he hadn't seen any cars pass by along the road, not even one. But Grandma said there were a lot of customers. Oat chose to ignore those words. He grabbed a bag of bread and a bottle of lukewarm soft drink. After that, he placed the money on the counter without walking over to Grandma. "Here's the money, thank you again, Grandma." Oat said goodbye to the owner with a smile, but the voice that replied made him shiver. "Eat well, young man." The old woman's laughing voice was high-pitched and chilling, making Oat shiver and quickly run back to his truck and drive away immediately, even though he was still wondering why the old woman looked so strange. Oat continued driving the large truck on the bumpy and uneven dirt road. When he drove out and met the paved road and streetlights, he sighed in relief. After more than 3 hours stuck on that road, his stomach started to growl from hunger. But before he opened the bread he bought from Grandma's store to eat, Oat saw that the map on his phone showed that he was not far from his destination. He decided to drive to his destination first without touching the bread he had bought. Finally, Oat arrived at the customer's factory. A security guard told him where to park the truck and unload the goods. After finishing the paperwork, he asked the security guard for a place to rest. The security guard, who was around 40 years old, sat near him and smoked a cigarette. "Hey, young man, what road did you take?" he asked. "I took the map," Oat said, showing him the phone. But the security guard's face didn't look happy. "And Oat," he continued, "the road was very difficult to drive on. It was narrow and dark and also bumpy. It took me 3 hours to get through it." Oat complained while picking up the bag of bread to open it and eat, without looking at the security guard's face, which was starting to change. When Oat opened the bag of bread, he quickly put a large bite in his mouth. But the taste and smell he felt were like vomit, making him spit out what was in his mouth. He quickly grabbed the bottle of red soft drink and opened it. But before he could lift it to drink, he saw that inside the red water there were many small black carcasses floating, lying dead on the surface in a black mass. Seeing this, he immediately vomited. And when he looked at the bread, he saw that it was something disgusting, full of mold and bits of dirt stuck all over the plastic bag. The security guard who saw this quickly brought him some plain water. Before he could sigh in shock, "Oh no, you've encountered something," the security guard said. At this point, Oat was still vomiting and gagging, his face pale, but he tried to ask the security guard, "What did I encounter?" The security guard opened the map on his phone and showed it to him, saying that the path shown on the map that led him here was a main road and should only take an hour to travel. When he heard this, Oat was surprised and told the security guard about the general store, the moldy bread, and the old soft drink he had bought. It was as if they were offerings that were usually placed in front of a spirit house, left there until they rotted. The security guard continued to sigh and told him that many people had encountered strange things here because another road connected to the field was a passage for spirits, and not a few people who went in there had encountered ghosts and strange things until it became a widely told story. But the security guard also didn't know who the owner of that general store was. It might be a spirit that watches over the passage of spirits, but what was certain was that she wasn't human. What the security guard told Oat that day made him never dare to drive on that road alone at night again. The deserted road wedding route, vengeful spirit. It came with vengeance. From not believing in supernatural things, I had to believe. From not being afraid of spirits, I became afraid. Even now, I still feel scared about the incident I encountered. I didn't know that the incident I encountered this time was the beginning of a haunting story that I would have to face repeatedly. Because only 7 days after I encountered the spirit of Auntie M, I had to encounter something frightening again. The story happened on the wedding day of a senior colleague who worked with my father. Her name was P Nong. P Nong held a simple wedding in a small village. P Nong's house was located at the end of the village, and this village was about 1 kilometer away from our village. Both sides of the road between the two villages were lined with forest and sugarcane fields stretching out. There were no houses at all. On the wedding day, my mother went to help with the wedding preparations at P Nong's house since morning because my mother and P Nong had known each other well for a long time. My mother helped with the work from the morning until the afternoon. Around 3:30 p.m., my mother rode her motorcycle back home to take a shower and get dressed for the evening party. And my mother also told me to follow her to the party in the evening. When I heard what my mother said, I felt a little scared because I was still afraid of what I had encountered before. It made me not want to go anywhere alone in the dark anymore. So I asked my mother with a trembling voice, "Are you going to make me go alone?" But my mother said no, because she already knew I was afraid of ghosts. My mother would have my older brother go with me and also 3 of our cousins. My older brother's name is Nong. As for the cousins, there was PK, P Tam, and Nan, who is the same age as me. When I knew that several people would be going with me, I felt relieved. After that, my mother and father left first. When it was almost time for us to go, I took a shower and got dressed and waited for my siblings. Not long after, my siblings arrived, but I noticed that the number of people who came was more than expected. There were 3 unfamiliar faces as well, and Nong introduced them to me as his friends. Their names were P Mana, PIA, and P Tai. So now there were 8 of us going to the wedding, including me. When everyone arrived, we all went to the wedding. At this time, it was already around 7:30 p.m. We rode motorcycles, a total of 3 motorcycles with 2 or 3 people on each. Nong, my older brother, was the driver and I rode behind him. We rode along slowly out of our village until we reached the area with the forest and sugarcane fields. The road was dark and scary. The lights from the sugarcane fields were few and not bright enough to provide light. But we arrived at the wedding safely. When we were all at the party, we ate and talked until it was almost midnight. Then we decided to go back home. But on the way back, Nong's motorcycle wouldn't start. Nong then told me to take my mother's motorcycle first. He would come back to pick up my father and mother later. But when I asked, my mother said that my father had taken the motorcycle back home because my mother thought she would come back with us. We decided for a moment, then thought we would just walk back together because the distance from here to our house wasn't very far. So we all walked back home, all 9 of us, and 3 motorcycles, including the other working motorcycles. When we reached the area with the forest and sugarcane fields, we felt that the atmosphere was quiet and dark. There was a light breeze which should have felt cool and comfortable, but there was a hidden fear. So we walked in a line along the roadside. My mother walked in front, leading the group, riding a motorcycle beside PK and Nan. In the middle was Nong, pushing the motorcycle that wouldn't start, and PIA walked beside him. PK and P Tai walked and pushed motorcycles next to me at the end of the line. While we were walking, we were talking and playing with each other. Some of us were joking, some were teasing, laughing, and having fun. The loud noise seemed to be trying to prevent us from being scared, and it really worked. I forgot about my fear and laughed at the words and funny actions, but then I couldn't laugh for long. My eyes glanced and saw a man wearing a red shirt standing behind a sugarcane field away from the road. I thought it was one of our group, so I didn't pay attention, but after walking a little further, I started to wonder if anyone would be standing there. And what scared me was that everyone was present, and no one was wearing a red shirt. So I turned to look behind me again to see who the man was, but I couldn't see the man anymore. While I was confused about what was happening, a shriek echoed. Everyone stopped walking and realized that it was Nan's voice. She shrieked and pointed towards the sugarcane field in front of her and spoke almost incoherently, saying, "Ghost." Everyone turned to look where she was pointing, but no one saw anything. Then Pitai laughed and told Nan, "Don't lie to us, we don't believe you." Everyone laughed because they thought Nan was just trying to scare them. But I noticed Nan's worried and scared expression and her trembling voice. Even though everyone else was laughing because they thought it was a joke, I felt that Nan was telling the truth. Tears started to stream down my face. My legs started to tremble with fear. Tai, who was walking next to me, saw it and asked, "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" I quickly wiped away my tears and said, "Something got in my eye, it's nothing." Because at that moment I didn't want to say anything to make everyone else scared. After walking for a while from everyone laughing, they became quiet. Not long after, PK, my cousin, made another joke to make everyone laugh again. And Manop, Nong's friend, said, "Hey Nong, did you laugh that loudly?" Nong looked confused and replied, "No, I laughed normally." Manop thought it was because Nong was walking next to him that he heard the loud laughter right next to his ear, so he didn't pay attention anymore. After walking a little further, suddenly Nan, my cousin who was walking next to my mother, turned to look at me, turned back, and then turned back to look at me again, doing this 2 or 3 times along with making strange faces. So I asked Nan, "What's wrong? Why are you making that face?" But Nan replied, "No, nothing." At this moment I felt cold on my back and I had goosebumps since before, but I thought it was just because the weather was cold, making me feel this way. We continued walking until we reached our house. My mother asked my siblings if they were going back or if they would stay here. Everyone replied that they would stay here because it was already late. My mother arranged places for them to sleep. As for me, I excused myself to go to bed first because I was tired all day. As for my siblings and friends, they hadn't gone up to the house yet. They were sitting and talking on the porch in front of the house. Nong was sitting and repairing the broken motorcycle. The men volunteered to help so it would be finished quickly because no one was sleepy yet. The others, including me, sat and talked with them. We kept talking and then suddenly Nan spoke up about what she had seen. She said she saw a man standing behind the sugarcane field and told us that he was the ghost who was haunting the area. It's true, I'm not lying. Everyone was silent and looked at her. She reiterated that she really saw him because she thought no one would believe her. Then Nan said that while we were walking and talking, she felt like someone was watching her. At first, she thought it was PA who was walking behind, so she intended to turn and ask what he was looking at. But before she could turn, she saw a man standing and smiling in front of the sugarcane field. So she smiled back. At that moment, Nan only thought that it must be someone from the wedding party standing there relieving himself, so she smiled out of embarrassment. But before she could walk past the man, she was shocked because his face slowly changed from normal to disfigured, with eyes almost popping out of their sockets, causing Nan to shriek loudly in fear. When everyone heard what Nan said, they were all scared and sat quietly. No one spoke. After a moment, Nan asked Nan, "Was the man you saw wearing a red shirt?" Nan immediately replied, "Yes, it was." Nan was very startled because she had seen him too. Everyone spoke in unison. "Where did you see him?" She replied that she saw the man walking behind us when she turned to look at us, but then she said there was nothing. Nan had seen the man but thought she was just seeing things. So she turned to look again, and she saw the man smiling and waving. When she looked for the third time, the man was gone. Everyone looked stunned. As for me, I was very scared, so much so that my face was pale and my hands were trembling, making me unable to speak. And Manop, Nong's friend, also said, "We felt something strange when we turned to look at Nong. Do you remember when I asked if you laughed loudly? Do you remember?" "Yes." "But you weren't laughing loudly." Manop then said it was strange because at that moment he heard loud and clear laughter, as if someone was shouting right by his ear, until Tai, another friend of Nong, also exclaimed that it was the same ghost. This made everyone silent again. And I said that actually that man had been following us for a while. I saw him before my siblings did, but I didn't tell anyone because I thought he was one of our group. At that moment, Nong had just finished repairing the motorcycle. The people who were sitting silently then scattered to go to bed. Just then, a dog started howling loudly. So I walked to the front of the house to see what the dog was barking at. And I was shocked by what I saw. When I looked, I saw a young man wearing a red shirt and pants standing and smiling in front of the house, only a few tens of meters away. He raised his hand as if to call me over. His face was terrifying, with eyes almost popping out of their sockets. I shrieked as loud as I could. Everyone was so startled they jumped and ran towards me, asking what was wrong. My tears streamed down, and I could only speak with a trembling voice while pointing to the front of the house. Everyone turned to look at the front of the house at the same time and was shocked by what they saw standing there, because it was the man we had been talking about just now. But the story is not over yet, because Kun Nam said that this is just the beginning. If she has free time again, she will share more stories. Please give her a little more time. Night of the Wandering Soul. The afternoon sun's scorching heat beat down from the sky, illuminating a dirt road thick with red dust. The dust billowed, covering the white sedan I was driving. I was heading towards Ong Long Village, a small village in the northeast, through the blistering heat of April. My girlfriend Nang, whom I'd been dating for several months, had repeatedly refused to take me to meet her parents, always claiming that her village was too rural, too primitive, and there was nothing that would interest me. She said the village only had old people whose children had abandoned them to raise grandchildren while they worked in Bangkok. There were no convenience stores, no electricity or running water. They had to fetch water from wells or collect rainwater to boil. She didn't want me to see anything so harsh, afraid I wouldn't be able to handle it. I had asked her repeatedly, but she always refused until I stopped mentioning her parents. But then one day she suddenly told me that her mother wanted to meet me, so I had to take 3 days off work starting from Wednesday to overlap with Saturday and Sunday, making it a 5-day break. I quickly drove my car out of the condo in the Thonglo area, heading out with her in the early morning around 4 a.m. so we could reach her mother's house before evening. but the journey was longer than I thought. I drove all day until the sky began to darken, but there was still no sign of Ong Lung village. "If you don't want to go, we can turn back," Nang said softly. "Is something wrong?" I asked back. "Are you so reluctant for me to meet your family?" She didn't reply. Nang looked very worried. She was probably afraid that I would find out how difficult life was in her village and would leave her. But if two people are in a relationship, sooner or later they have to see everything, and I wanted to meet her parents properly. I drove along the dirt road past winding bends into the forest, emerging into a sugarcane field, but I still didn't see any sign of her village. The sound of the radio, which had been playing all along, began to crackle with static. It was so far from the city, so far that even the radio signal couldn't reach. I quickly turned off the radio. The surrounding atmosphere became eerily quiet again. "How much further is it?" I asked to break the silence. "Just a little further, maybe," she replied with a worried expression. "The village isn't on the map, it branched off from the main district," she added. I didn't want to ask anything else to stress her out, so I just kept driving. Not long after, at the end of the road, I saw the entrance to the village. It was a sign made from a whole tree trunk sawed into a plank, with the name Ong Lung Village carved into it. I slowly steered the car along the path. The village entrance was narrow, small, and led into a dense forest. It was a dirt road, uneven, making the car bounce around. I drove past 2 or 3 houses along the roadside. The houses looked like raised shelters made of corrugated iron sheets, more like temporary workers' huts than houses. Nang told me to drive further in and we would reach her house. "Here it is," Nang said, patting my arm. I slowly stopped the car and saw the red light of a kerosene lamp from inside a house made of corrugated iron sheets, similar to the other houses. An elderly woman, frail, holding a torch, walked out of the house. Her body was so thin she looked unable to walk. Red fluid dripped from the corner of her mouth. The light from the lamp reflected on her rough, grotesque face, making me think of the ghost movie I watched as a child, those Pob ghost movies. "Mom, we're here." Nang opened the car door and quickly ran to hug the elderly woman who was spitting red fluid out of her mouth. "We've arrived. Come in and eat first, my child. You've traveled a long way. You must be hungry." Food was prepared and waiting. It was fermented fish paste chili dip with boiled vegetables. Even though I was very hungry, I only ate a few bites of the chili dip and boiled vegetables because I wasn't used to the taste. As for the fermented fish, I couldn't even look at it. The sight of the fermented fish in the pot, each piece swollen and round, with fins and legs extended, floating in the murky broth, made me think of the time in Mathayom when we had to dissect a frog in biology class and my friend vomited from the smell. It just made me think of that incident, and the taste was definitely not good. "City boy doesn't eat fermented fish paste chili dip, huh? It's good stuff, my child," Nang's mother asked. "It's good, Mom, but I'm tired from driving, so I don't have much appetite," I replied, trying to force a smile, looking uncomfortable with the local food. "It's okay, child, eat until you're full," she replied with a smile that revealed her teeth, black from betel nut stains, few and far between, looking like scattered black watermelon seeds stuck to her gums. I closed my eyes and swallowed, looking towards Uncle M. "Uncle, aren't you eating, sir?" I asked. "Mama's eaten. Eat until you're full, child." "Take your time," Nang's mother said, smiling at me again. Her face when she smiled was frighteningly wrinkled. That night I couldn't sleep. Perhaps it was because I was in a strange place with strange smells. Nang and I slept in the same mosquito net, but Nang's mother slept in another one. The house, which looked like a worker's hut, allowed the moonlight to shine through, illuminating the surrounding area. Although it wasn't very clear, I lay there looking at the mosquito net. After a while, I heard a rustling sound from Nang's mother's mosquito net. The mosquito net was pulled open. Nang's mother slowly walked out of the mosquito net in a crouched position, as if she wasn't an old woman. I tried to watch her with the corner of my eye, trying not to move my head or blink because I was afraid Nang's mother would know I was awake. She walked straight to the garbage can where the leftover food was, as if she was hungry, but she didn't stop at the garbage can. She walked past it to a black basin. It was a black basin covered with another black basin. And then the unexpected happened. Nang's mother opened the basins. She reached her hand in and grabbed something out. Even though I couldn't see very clearly, the sound I heard was distinct. Slurp, slurp. It was the sound of something being eaten, similar to the sound of an ong, a type of insect, crying, but it was the sound of meat being eaten in Nang's mother's hand. "Why are you crying? My child will see you," Nang's mother said as she twisted and broke off a raw leg from the thing in her hand. She threw the leg into the open mouth, chewing loudly. Crunch, crunch. I watched the scene through the mosquito net. The old woman threw the legless ong into her mouth. Slurp. She then quickly turned back to look at me. Her face in front of me was her mouth smeared with the ong's blood, smiling grotesquely, her eyes wide open. I immediately closed my eyes as if nothing had happened and didn't dare to open them again. I heard the ong crying out 2 or 3 more times before I heard her footsteps walk back to her mosquito net and crawl in. Tomorrow we'll get to eat meat again," I heard her say in a hoarse voice. I bit my lip, forcing myself to remain still, stiff like a board. I lay there like that until I accidentally fell asleep. In the morning, I woke up because the sunlight shone into the mosquito net. The mosquito net had been put away. I opened my eyes and looked around. On the wooden table on the porch, there was a plate with flowers, incense, and candles placed on a large wooden tray. Nang's mother was wearing a white dress and a traditional sarong with her hair tied up. She was praying with her hands clasped together, performing some kind of ritual, with Nong sitting next to her. "Ong, come receive from Mom. Receive from the angels, from the deities, from the spirits," Nang's mother chanted with a soft smile, making me think of my grandmother who had told me stories when I was a child. My grandmother said that Rao Kon, receiving spirits, is allowing a non-physical entity to borrow your body to communicate, predict, or command things to the person receiving. Those who have divine protection can receive divine beings. As for those who don't have divine protection, the entity they receive will be other spirits. People who receive spirits are usually easily deceived into receiving ghosts. The person who receives will have a foul smell coming from their breath and will start to rot from within. At first, Mom wanted Nang to receive a divine being, but after I saw this, Mom thought I was more suitable. "Nan, come close to Mom," Nang's mother said. Nang's expression at that moment was the same as when she was in the car. She looked clearly worried. I quickly said, "Mom, I'm going to go get a flashlight from the car first. It might be useful." "Okay, child, go quickly and come back," she replied. I quickly got out of that house and ran to the car. I got into the car as usual, trying to act as normal as possible. My hands were trembling. I fumbled with the key. As soon as I put the key in the ignition, I quickly started the engine. The engine roared to life, and then I saw Nang running, stumbling out of the house, screaming and following the car. She looked panicked, her face pale. "No, don't go. Come receive. I don't want to receive the POB," Nang screamed, chasing after me barefoot. I was driving away from her, getting further with each second. At this moment, I saw Nang's mother running after the car. An elderly woman who shouldn't have been able to run was now chasing the car closely. In her hand, she held a knife and a torch. With a cursing shout, "It will make my heart pound until it almost pops out of my chest." Sweat poured down my face. I pressed the accelerator to the floor. The tires spun, kicking up dust, and the car shot forward. "Hey, woman, you invite ghosts home, but you don't want merit, you want life." This story happened a long time ago, back when I was studying at a famous university in Bangkok. I liked my privacy and rented a dorm room by myself. Whenever I went anywhere, I didn't have to worry about annoying my roommate. My friends often invited me to hang out at a pub not far from the university. I wanted to see the seniors and juniors who would be there. Besides, I didn't have to worry about coming back late since I was sleeping alone anyway. So I accepted the invitation and went to meet my friends at the pub. We drank and had fun, cheering and talking about many things because some of us didn't see each other often. Time passed until midnight and I thought it was getting late. I had to study for a test with a friend from the teacher's college tomorrow, so I thought it was time to part ways. "Hey, let's go home," I said. Everyone agreed. Some were starting to get drunk and wanted to go back to sleep. After paying for the food and drinks and saying goodbye, I walked to the parking lot to get my motorcycle. At this point, I felt a strange coldness on my back, as if someone was following me. When I turned back, I didn't see anyone in the area. I thought I was probably just dizzy from the alcohol, even though I was careful not to drink until I was drunk because I had to study for a test tomorrow. I tried to shake my head to clear it, got on my motorcycle and rode back to the dorm without thinking much of it. Along the way, I felt a pain in my back and neck, but it was bearable. I rode back to the dorm. Around 1 a.m., the pain started to get worse. I quickly went to the bathroom and took some pain medication, then went straight to bed thinking that if I got some rest, the pain would be better tomorrow morning. After I had been asleep for a while, around 2 a.m., I woke up, but I didn't open my eyes. Even though I was sleeping alone on the bed, I felt the mattress next to me sink, as if someone had come to lie down with me. I was very sleepy, so I unconsciously fell back asleep. In the morning, the pain in my back and neck was still there. I thought it was just normal muscle aches. So I quickly got ready and left the room because I saw that it was almost time for the test study group. While riding my motorcycle into the university and walking into the building, a senior I saw said, "Hey Nong, who did you bring with you today? Is it a friend?" When I heard that, I was surprised. When the senior saw my confused expression, he said, "Why are you confused? I saw a man sitting behind you just now." I thought the senior was joking and trying to trick me, but the senior insisted, "Damn it, I'm not kidding, I really saw it." My friends and I looked at each other but didn't say anything. When I heard my friend call out, I excused myself from the senior and went to study for the test as arranged. After we finished studying, we went to our respective classes. In class, the professor divided us into groups. My group had only 4 people, but the professor still allowed us to work on the report. While my friends were working, I accidentally fell asleep due to exhaustion because my back and neck had been hurting all night, preventing me from sleeping soundly. When the professor saw it, my group was punished by having to finish the report by the end of the day. Since there were no more classes after this, we could use the room to continue working. It was already evening. If we were slow, we might have to go home late. The 4 of us had to work twice as fast because we had fewer people than other groups, but the amount of work was similar. We worked until past 8 p.m. and the report was halfway done. One friend in the group named Tong sniffed as if he smelled something and said, "Hey, it smells rotten. Nan, do you smell it?" Nan looked up from the report and replied, "Yeah, I smell it too." Then Nan turned to look at S and asked, "Why are you so quiet today?" I also added, "Yeah, S, why are you so quiet? You're usually so talkative." But before S could reply, a woman shrieked loudly, startling everyone. All of us stopped and listened to hear if there would be any more sounds. As far as we knew, all the other students had gone home. There shouldn't be anyone except the 4 of us. I tried walking around the nearby area but didn't see anyone, so I came back and told my friends to hurry and finish the work. Once we finished, we would get out of here quickly. Around 9 p.m. the report was starting to take shape and was almost finished. I heard a voice crying out, "Help! Help! Bye-bye!" followed by a blood-curdling scream and then silence. We looked at each other, clearly seeing that everyone had heard the sound too. The screaming sound was close, as if it came from the room we were working in. All four of us didn't say anything and continued working until it was finished in less than half an hour. After we packed up, we all went our separate ways home. On the way back to the dorm on my motorcycle, I still felt the pain in my back and neck. I thought if my condition didn't improve tomorrow, I would have to go to the hospital for a checkup. That night, while I was half asleep, half awake, I felt something heavy on my body. I couldn't move. While I was confused about whether it was a dream or reality, my phone rang. It startled me out of my daze. I regained my strength and could move again. I quickly grabbed my phone and answered. It was Smiy, my close friend, calling to ask if he could stay over because he had just been kicked out by his father. I immediately agreed and said that I had almost been affected by something similar, but my phone ringing saved me. After hanging up with Smiy, Tong and S also called and said they had been kicked out as well. Each person spoke with a trembling voice and seemed very scared. So I told everyone to gather in my room. When they arrived at the room, each person made their own bed. They seemed relieved to be together. After we had been sleeping for a while, I heard Smiy shriek loudly, "Get out! Get out!" I, Tong and S jumped up and quickly turned on the light. We all saw Smiy lying there, trembling all over. I quickly woke up my friend, who was trembling as if afraid of something. When Smiy opened his eyes, Tong quickly brought him some water. I asked Smiy, "What's wrong? You're shaking so much and screaming, startling everyone." Smiy was still shaken by what had happened and sat there silently. I didn't want to ask him anymore, and it was almost morning anyway. It wouldn't be long before morning. The next morning, we walked to a noodle shop near the dorm. After writing down our orders on a piece of paper, I called the man who was serving the noodles, who was standing at the counter, to take the paper. While waiting for the noodles, the four of us started talking about the horrifying incident we encountered yesterday. S said that yesterday, while we were working in the group, S saw a figure that looked like me sitting on my shoulder. At first, he thought he was seeing things, so S turned to look away, but when he looked back at me, he saw the figure again. Wherever I moved, the woman sitting on my shoulder followed. At that moment, S was very scared, but he didn't dare to say anything. He tried to finish the work quickly. When he looked up again, the figure on my shoulder was gone. When I heard this, I started to connect the events. My back and neck pain, the senior saying someone was with me, and my friend saying he saw someone sitting on my shoulder. It made me shiver. The back and neck pain were still there. I didn't know if it was because someone was sitting there. I really didn't want to imagine it. Since no one else said anything, I turned to ask Smiy, "And you? What happened last night? Can you tell us?" Smiy took a big gulp of water before recounting that while he was dozing off in my room, he saw a dark, shadowy figure, very large, walking to the bed and jumping onto his body. And he felt unable to move and started suffocating, which was the same symptom he experienced in his own room. While he was struggling to break free, he shouted at the figure to get out, and then I called out to him and he could move again. Tong and S heard this and said in unison that they had experienced similar things when they were possessed. They felt like they were suffocating and couldn't breathe properly, and they thought they wouldn't survive. Even while the four of us were recounting the scary events we had experienced, the owner of the noodle shop brought the noodles and said, "6 bowls left. Do you want them? There are so many of you here." We were startled and told the uncle that there were only 4 of us. The owner looked confused and said, "Oh, but there are friends standing in front of the shop." We looked at each other and thought we might have been followed by spirits, so we said, "Please don't follow us, we'll make merit for you." But before we could finish speaking, we heard a reply. "I don't want merit, I want life." The voice echoed loudly in our ears, but the other people in the noodle shop didn't hear it. We were so scared that we couldn't eat anything. We quickly paid and left the shop. I thought all of this must have started from the pub I went to that night, because after returning from the pub I had back and neck pain. So I invited my friends to ask about the history at the pub. At first, the staff at the pub were reluctant to tell us, afraid the owner would find out and it would harm the pub's reputation. But when we told them what had happened, including being possessed and the spirits wanting lives, the staff agreed to tell us that several years ago a customer with a chronic illness was drinking at the pub, and while he was sitting there he suddenly had a heart attack and died at the table inside the pub. Not long after, a group of drunk customers got into a fight at the pub. The staff helped stop them and kicked one group out. However, thinking it was over, the group that was kicked out returned with weapons. The 2 groups started fighting, breaking things. Other people ran for their lives, afraid of being caught in the crossfire. Before the police arrived, several people were severely injured. Some were stabbed to death inside the pub. Some were sent to the hospital for treatment but couldn't bear the pain and died at the hospital. The pub tried to cover up the news, but the number of customers decreased significantly. As time passed, the story died down, and new students who didn't know about the deaths started coming to the pub. Gradually, customers returned as before. We listened and were shocked. The spirits of those who died there were still around. In their hearts, there must have been only anger and resentment. My friends and I decided to go to the temple to make merit and dedicate it to those spirits. Even if they said they didn't want merit, that was up to them. But before we went to the temple, we had to go drop off the report we finished yesterday at the professor's office first. But Nye said he had to go back to his room to get something. So me, Tong, and S would go to the university and arrange to meet Nye at the temple later. After leaving the report on the professor's desk, we walked to the parking lot. On the way back, we had to pass the faculty office building. I was familiar with the senior who worked there because I often went there to do paperwork. So I went in to tell him that the report I said I would bring today, I would have to postpone it. My friends and I would go to the temple because we had been encountering strange things lately. So we were going to make some merit. The senior asked me, "Haunted?" For what we don't seem to notice. Last night, Tong and S were possessed, and yesterday around midnight I could hear screaming from women in the room we were reporting from. The senior's eyes widened in surprise and he said, "Wasn't that the small classroom?" I nodded. The 3 of us looked at the senior, who seemed to know something, but he just told us that the room we were working in had a story that there was a female teacher who had a problem with another woman, and they fought fiercely until one of them died. The house mother downstairs had told him that one day she had to arrange the seminar room until evening, so she came to clean the building around dusk. At that time, she was cleaning the walkway downstairs when she heard a screaming sound coming from inside the room. She went to look and saw a human-like figure shrieking inside the room. The house mother was scared and went back to her room downstairs. Later, she heard about the death. We listened to the story and felt shivers. The ghosts the house mother saw, we had only heard the sound, nothing more than that. If it was before, maybe we wouldn't believe it, but after the incident last night and at the noodle shop, we believed that there were spirits in that room. We didn't know if me inviting my friends to stay late meant I invited the spirits to follow us home. I started to worry that we wouldn't be safe, so I quickly said goodbye to the senior and headed to the temple immediately. When we arrived at the temple, I called Nai to tell him we had arrived at the temple, but Nai didn't answer. We made merit and poured water of dedication, then went to see the revered monk. But before I could tell him the story, the monk, as soon as he saw us, said, "Oh, you've brought someone with you." We looked confused, unsure if the monk saw something following us. I replied to the monk, "I didn't bring anyone, sir." Then I told the monk the whole story. While I was talking, my phone rang. When I answered, it was Nai saying he was driving to the temple. Tong heard and told Nai, "Oh, we're at the temple and talking to the monk. Nai, you have to come quickly." As soon as he finished speaking, Tong heard Nai scream in surprise, "Hey, woman," and the line went dead. Tong tried to call back, but Nai didn't answer. Tong was holding his phone tightly, worried if something had happened to Nai, so he quickly ran to tell us who were talking to the monk. As for me, after telling the monk the whole story, he closed his eyes and meditated for a while, then opened them and looked at us, who were sitting there anxiously waiting for him to help us with the spirits that were following us. The monk told us to calm down and said that those spirits weren't following us anymore because our friend was protecting us. We should make merit for him. If we wanted to go back, we could. We were confused by what the monk said, but were worried about Nai, so we left the monk and returned to the dorm. On the way back to the dorm, the pain in my back and neck was completely gone. After a while, Tong received a call from Nai's number, but it was a woman's voice speaking. When they talked, they found out that while Nai was driving, he saw a woman walking across the road, walking in front of his car at close range, causing Nai to swerve and collide with a truck coming from the opposite direction at high speed. Nai was killed instantly, and Tong's phone number was the last number Nai called. The hospital contacted him to help inform Nai's relatives. The three of us were heartbroken. My tears streamed down because Nai was my close friend since high school. After that incident, me, Tong, and S always made merit for Nai, and we never said anything about inviting someone home again because we didn't want anything to follow us home anymore.